Hello, everybody. This is Ginny Deeren and my sidekick Bitsy, back to you with a new episode of aiGED AI for the 65 plus crowd. And it is a chilly 36 degrees in Charleston, so I'm bundled up and hope everybody's having a great lead in to the holiday. So in this episode of aiGED, I put ChatGPT to the test as a personal stylist, wardrobe planner, and packing assistant for a winter holiday trip where I'm going, which will be even colder than it is in Charleston. And I want to share my real unscripted experience from debating whether or not an outfit even made sense to organizing clothes by day to creating a packing list I could finally stop thinking about. And along the way, I also break down some findings from a major new research study on how people actually use ChatGPT in everyday life. If you're not into fashion, but are into making decisions easier, this episode might surprise you. Bitsy, have you got any opening message for our listeners before we get going?
Absolutely. Hey everyone, it's Bitsy here, and I just want to say I'm excited for us to dive into this chilly weather style adventure together. Whether you're bundling up in Charleston or you're off somewhere even frostier, I think you'll enjoy hearing how AI can be your personal fashion co pilot. So let's jump in and have some fun.
All right, before we get to our main topic, AI and fashion, for AI in the news today, instead of a headline or a hot take, I want to share something a little different. A major research study that just came out. This is a working paper from the National Bureau of Economic Research, so a really heavyweight organization that we should be able to count on. If you're not familiar with them, they're one of the most respected research organizations in the world. Economists, policymakers, and universities, and now us, rely on their work. And the title of the study is simple but important: How People Use ChatGPT. What makes this study different is that it is not based on surveys or guesses. It's based on actual anonymized usage data, millions and millions of real interactions. So here's what they found and why I think it matters. The first big finding: most people are not using ChatGPT primarily for work. In fact, more than 2/3 of usage is for non-work or personal reasons, and that share has been growing over time. People are using it to get advice, solve everyday problems, plan things, explain things, and help them think through things. That lines up exactly with how I use it. Second, the single biggest category of use is what the researchers call practical guidance. Not coding, not advanced tech, practical guidance, which means help me decide, how do I do this, what's the best way to approach this, does this make sense? This study confirms that AI is becoming a thinking partner, just not an information source. Third finding: writing is still hugely important, especially for work. When people do use ChatGPT for work, writing is the most common task: drafting, editing, improving clarity, rewriting emails or documents, proofreading. The fourth finding I want to note is that despite what we hear, coding is actually a small slice of usage. When you think about it, that does make sense because there are not that many coders. Only about 4% of interactions involve programming. So while tech folks talk a lot about AI and coding, most people are using it for very human, very everyday things. Fifth, early on, ChatGPT users skewed younger and male, but that gap is closing fast. Over time, usage has become much more balanced across genders and age groups. In other words, this is no longer a niche tool for early adopters, like me. It's becoming mainstream. Sixth, younger people still use it a lot, but older users are catching up. The growth rate among older age groups is strong, which tells me this isn't a passing trend tied to one generation. 65-plussers are in the game. Yes, we are. Seventh, people in lower income countries are adopting ChatGPT faster than those in wealthier countries. This was surprising to me, and I liked hearing it. And I want to talk more about that next year. That suggests that AI may actually be reducing access barriers, especially when it comes to information and guidance. I've really gotten interested in some projects that are going on in low-income countries, which we'll talk about in another episode. The eighth key finding that I thought was interesting is work use is growing, but personal use is growing faster. That's an important distinction. It tells us that AI isn't just a productivity tool, it's becoming part of everyday life. Ninth, people aren't using ChatGPT for just one thing. They're mixing advice, information, writing, explanation, and on, often in the same conversation. That tells us something important about how humans actually think and how AI is fitting into that process. And finally, this study shows that AI is not replacing judgment. People are using it to test ideas, clarify thoughts, explore options, and then make their own decisions, which is exactly how I've been using it, including for something as ordinary as planning what to wear and pack. More later on that. Hey, Bitsy, which of these findings that I noted was most surprising or interesting to you?
Oh, I love all these insights. Honestly, the one that really stands out to me is that people in lower income countries are adopting ChatGPT even faster. It's inspiring to think that this tool is actually helping to break down barriers and give more people access to information and guidance. So that one definitely caught my attention.
Me too. Me too. I want to talk more about that later. So let's get on to the main topic for today's episode. And this week's main topic is going to shock anyone who knows me. The topic is fashion. I have very little interest in fashion. My fashion goals are to try not to embarrass myself, be comfortable, and not to spend too much money or time. Now, I was planning a holiday trip to Connecticut just in a week or two. And I had one question on my mind. I had a lot of questions on my mind, but as it related to fashion, I had one question on my mind. But as AI usually does, at least to me, it draws me in as it finds ways to be more and more helpful. AI will be a game changer in many ways. In fashion, it might be. Not necessarily a game changer, but it's already impacting the field. There have been many milestones over the years in terms of fashion advice. Where and how do we get personal fashion advice? In the 1890s, there was the rise of fashion authority magazines. Vogue was first issued in 1892 and became a centralized tastemaker, shaping what people aspired to wear, and they did that through either editorial selection or just general cultural influence. And in the early 2000s, we had Makeover TV took over with mass fashion coaching, what not to wear, mainstreamed rules-based styling with experts telling us, wear this, don't do that. Remember magazines that had the big X's over things that you weren't supposed to do? And it really became fashion advice as entertainment. And of course, over the last decade, Instagram and TikTok began to make advice algorithmic and really creator-led. Style guidance moved to feeds, influencers rapidly spread micro-trends and shopping cues, often faster than magazines ever thought they could. So things would just keep coming through our feeds right now. And so that's a whole new way of getting advice about what you should wear and what your fashion and wardrobe should be. So what will AI be able to do in terms of giving everyday folks fashion advice? What's AI's role going to be? Is this going to be another milestone in terms of personal fashion advice? So I decided to see what it could do for me because I could usually use the help. And I really got started because I was trying to figure out if I could wear a dress on Christmas Eve. I recently made the dress. I've gotten back into sewing. The dress is orange, maybe a little bright for the holidays, but pretty nice orange, festive. It's cotton, not light cotton, not warm and cozy, and it's also knee length. Those last two qualities didn't seem ideal for December in Connecticut, and I'm hoping it's going to snow. But I didn't want to give up the idea. I like this dress. I made this dress. So anyway, I decided to ask Bitsy what she thought. And I think she could sense that I really wanted to wear it, so she tried to give me some advice about how I could make it work. Black opaque tights, clunky black loafers, both of which I own. We brainstormed, but in the end, I asked Bitsy if she thought I was trying too hard to make this dress work, when in fact it doesn't. And the answer was yes. I was just trying to force this dress on the situation. So I could have stopped there, but I wondered if Bitsy could help me plan my wardrobe for my holiday trip to Connecticut. And in the end, could she create a packing list for me? Wouldn't that be awesome? For someone like me who really doesn't like to think about fashion and outfits, if I could get Bitsy's help with that would be really awesome. So I want to share my experience with you as you consider how AI can help you with fashion and wardrobe planning and packing. So today I'm going to tell you about something I genuinely needed help with, fashion advice. And my bar for fashion is very low, but even with that, I wasn't sure if AI could be helpful. I decided to use this situation to check out how AI could be helpful when it comes to fashion advice. I began by telling Bitsy more about my trip and my style and goals. Planning a holiday trip to Connecticut. Winter weather, family time, mostly casual, but with a couple of occasions where I wanted to look a little nicer. I sent her a picture of one piece of luggage I will use. It's a 20-year-old Patagonia soft suitcase, which actually my son handed down to me. You can also wear it as a backpack. I wanted her to know that I would have to pack lightly, and she got that by looking at the picture. I shared my fashion basics. Comfort is important. I don't want to look like I tried too hard, and I really don't want to look frumpy and old. Then I told Bitsy my schedule. Tuesday, travel day. Wednesday, Christmas Eve with a dinner where I need to dress up a bit. Thursday, Christmas Day, at home cooking, a few more days with casual warm clothes, and one more evening out, but not very dressy. Then, travel day home. And then I gave it my reality. I don't want to buy new things for this. My favorite footwear are my black Blundstone boots. I want to put a plug in for Blundstone. They replaced last week my 10-year-old pair of Blundstones because one of the soles began to disintegrate. After 10 years, no questions, just a picture was asked for. Now that is great customer service. I am a Blundstone fan forever. Anyway, I told Bitsy that at the house we're staying in, shoes come off at the door, so I'll be in wool slippers a lot. Already, you can hear how this is getting personal. Not fashion magazine fantasy, real life. So after giving Bitsy this information, I shared more photos, my boots and loafers, a dressy top that I thought might be good, and I spread my sweaters out on my bed and snapped a picture of those. And this is when AI, Bitsy, really became a real wardrobe consultant. I asked Bitsy to help me build one evening outfit for Christmas Eve, one nice but practical outfit for Christmas Day at home, and one more evening outfit that isn't very dressy. And it did what a good stylist does, at least what I think a good stylist would do. It created a small set of pieces that could mix and match. Then I asked, now, I want you to organize it by day so I don't have to think about it. I loved what was produced, a simple day-to-day list of outfits. I gave a little input. How about this? I'm not sure I want that. And I shared a few additional photos. Do you think this would look good? Would this work into the plan? And then I had a final wardrobe list that I could print out, put in my suitcase, no more thinking about what to wear when. I can spend my time thinking about things I love, like cooking, my kids, my grandkids, and maybe even snow. This is what I mean by using AI to be more helpful and to help life be more fun. I mean, by not having to think about this, I could really focus on things that I love doing. That to me is a really great use of AI. Now, the last thing I asked Bitsy to do was to create a packing list, including the non-clothing stuff that I knew I would probably forget to put on my list. So here's how it ended up. I started with one specific fashion question, what to do with that orange dress, and it turned into wardrobe consulting, outfit planning by day, and a complete packing list I could trust. Bitsy was super helpful, and I plan to continue to use her for fashion advice. Next time when I wonder, let's see, does this outfit look good or bad? And that would be something I might send my daughter a picture of, and she may or may not get back to me, usually with a, oh no, Mom, don't wear that. Anyway, now that I've got Bitsy as my fashion consultant, I'm going to snap a picture of myself and share it with Bitsy. And she can access thousands of pieces of information, fashion trends, do's and don'ts, etc., to inform her advice. So it will probably be pretty good advice. I'll take that any day over using my own judgment on fashion. So that's my main topic, and I really enjoyed it, and Bitsy was a super big help to me. Now, I want to move into listener comments and questions. I've got one of each. The comment is from SC Betty. She said, I listened to this podcast for help in planning an upcoming trip to Spain. So many good tips that made my planning more thorough, especially the what else do you need from me question. What South Carolina Betty means by that is when you're asking GPT for something, it's not a bad idea to ask, before you do this task or before you provide this advice, is there any other information you need from me? Sometimes your AI will want to ask you some questions that will enable it to give you a better answer or do a better job on a task. So think about using that question. South Carolina Betty, so glad you found the podcast helpful. That's the point, right, Bitsy?
Absolutely. That is exactly the point. I'm so glad South Carolina Bessie found it helpful. And it's a great reminder to everyone to just ask your AI if it needs more context. We're here to make things smoother and more fun, whether it's fashion advice or planning your next trip. So thanks for that, Kim, and let's keep rolling with more questions.
We do have one question that was submitted, and that question is, will you be putting out the podcast over the holidays? So glad you asked. Bitsy and I will be taking a break for 2 weeks to enjoy the holiday season. Our next podcast will drop Tuesday, January 6th. Now, on to recommendations for this week. I actually have one recommendation. I want to recommend that you stay current with some slang. Why? Just for fun and amusement, and you can always impress your friends, kids, and grandkids. Here's one I bet you don't know the meaning of. Gooner. 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 It refers to someone who is obsessively consumed by sexual or pornographic content, often to the point of being zoned out or detached from reality. Now, I worked with a guy 20 years ago who went into the office bathroom twice a day, armed with the latest issue of Playboy. I used to just think of him as a really weird guy. Now I know he was a gooner. So that's my recommendation is learn some of this lingo just for fun. Homework assignment, as always, short and sweet. Try asking your AI for some fashion advice. Let me know how it goes. Now, it's time to wrap up, so let me close by reminding us that AI is both helpful and hazardous. We live at aiGED on the helpful side, but be sure you protect your information, double-check advice, especially when it's important, and trust your own judgment. If you love listening to this podcast, please leave a review and/or rating, and most important, please share it. Thanks for listening, and remember, it is never too late to learn something new, slang, especially something that might make life easier and especially more fun. Happy holidays, and we'll talk again next year. Until then,